There are men and women who've served our country who now find themselves without a home. That's something no veteran should face, and that's something we'll be talking about on this edition of Veterans Health Watch. Please join us. Welcome to Veterans Health Watch, a program sponsored by the Veterans Affairs Maryland Healthcare System that provides the latest health and benefits information for Maryland's veterans, their family members, and the local community. I'm Kenya Griffin. The VA Maryland Healthcare System is working with veterans who are homeless or at risk for becoming homeless with a variety of programs. Here to tell us more about the Community Resource and Referral Center is Anthony Gibson, the center's coordinator. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us.
You're quite welcome, Kenya.
Tell us about the Community Resource and Referral Center. What is it and what services does it offer for our veterans?
Well, the Community Resource and Referral Center is a relatively new VA initiative, and it's designed to be kind of a one-stop shop for homeless veterans and those veterans that are at risk for becoming homeless to kind of get all the services that they need in one location. So a veteran can come into this Community Resource and Referral Center, or CRRC, on a walk-in basis and hopefully receive all the care and services that they need in one location.
And tell us about some of those services. What do you offer?
So what we're trying to do is provide the services that they need to not only get them stably housed, but to keep them housed. So we provide services from basic services, such as a veteran can come into the center, get a shower, get a meal, wash the clothes, and maybe even get some clothing. And those are just some of the basic needs that we provide for the veteran. It's extremely important that, I mean, you know how you feel when you take a shower.
Yeah.
It helps your self-esteem. So we want to start with those basic needs. But they can also come in and see some of our staff, our clinicians that are there to help them get to where they need to go. So a veteran might come in, for example, take a shower, and then see a social worker who will help that veteran who's homeless and maybe sleeping on the street get to a place, a safe place on a temporary basis, and to provide, so those are some of the services that we have.
And is it a shelter?
It's not a shelter.
Okay.
We're a walk-in service, and basically our hours are from 8 in the morning until 5. So a veteran can come in during those hours and be seen, but can't stay overnight. What we do have are other community partners and programs that we can connect that veteran with that will provide a safe place for them to stay that night.
And when you mention the community partners, I think that's a great point to make, because often people hear homelessness, or the term homelessness, or they see homeless people who are homeless on the streets, and they just think they just need a place to stay. Mm-hmm. But homelessness is a complicated condition. There's so many layers to providing not only the shelter, but other services that someone would need. What are some of the resources, the community resources that a veteran would find when they come to the CRRC?
Okay, that's a good question. So the primary focus is to get them housed, to get them off the street. But how do you keep a veteran housed once you've done that? What we do is we try to provide those wraparound services. So in my center, in addition to some of the VA programs, and I'll talk about that, that we also have a lot of community partners that actually come into the CRRC. They're there on a daily basis. And what some of these programs provides are things for example, a veteran could come in and receive funding to pay for the utilities, security deposits, first, second, third month's rent through some of our supportive services for veterans and family programs.
So how did this center come about?
As I mentioned earlier, this is a relatively new initiative for the VA. They originally started with CRCs across the country. There's currently 29 total across the country. 17 of them are relatively new. So ours is a new program. We opened about a year ago. And they're designed, they're supposed to be in the inner city where most of our homeless population are. And so they were designed so that homeless veterans would be able to not have to go necessarily to the VA hospital to get some of those services. They can go right there where they're, you know, I don't want to say living, but where they're not living, you know, where they're on the streets and that sort of thing. So the focus was to try to help as many of those veterans, especially those hard to reach veterans that have not actually engaged in VA services.
So to have the care they need right where they are.
Right where they
are.
And keep in mind that we're dealing with a very difficult population, that the majority of those veterans are dealing with issues, PTSD, some mental health issues, substance abuse issues. And so we're trying to bring in those services to help address those issues.
That's great. And what about the veterans who are not enrolled in the VA Maryland healthcare system? Do you have to be enrolled in the VA Maryland healthcare system to access the services at the CRRC?
No, and let me just kind of clarify that for a little bit. We have staff, outreach social workers, whose job is to go out into the city and the surrounding counties and engage those veterans who aren't actually engaged in VA services. So they'll go to the soup kitchens, to the encampments, to some of the places where homeless people are typically found. And they will engage those veterans and try to get them engaged in services. So they can actually, sometimes actually enroll them into the system while they're there, or bring them into the CRRC where we can kind of get them enrolled.
Okay.
Not all veterans are eligible for VA health care, but we're still able to provide some minimal services to those veterans that aren't eligible through our community partners.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I know that the community partnership is really strong. You can at least connect them to other services in the community.
We could not do this without the community partners, and that's critical and that's key. And
where exactly is the center located?
We're located on the corner of Park Avenue and Fayette Street, in the VA Annex, which is maybe 2 blocks away from the VA Medical Center.
Okay. And what about, and you mentioned walk-ins, do people need appointments at all? And what are your hours of operation?
So our hours of operation as far as the CRRC is concerned are from 8 in the morning when we open. I actually have staff that arrive at 7:30 until 4:30. Our walk-in hours are from 9 to 1. And so what we have set up in place is we have social workers from some of our other homeless programs, our HUD-VASH program, our Healthcare for Homeless Veteran program, who rotate through my program to provide intakes and assessments. And so a veteran can come in between 9 and 1, see a social worker, and start that process to provide that help for them. While they're there, we're going to have a representative from Project Place and Alliance and Easter Seals and some of the other programs, community partners that are there as well. So they can see a social worker, see a lawyer, because we have representatives from the Homeless Persons Representative Project that come into the CRC. We have Department of Labor, Licensing and Resources. Not sure if I said that right, but
Department of Labor is good. It's a good start.
DLLR, who can provide some employment services for the veteran. So the idea is for the veteran to come in and not have to leave and go to Social Security and see somebody from there, or go to Hopkins Plaza to see a VBA representative. They're all right there in CRC.
One-stop place.
One-stop shop.
And so you said you've been open for a year. How many veterans have you estimated that you've seen in this year?
So that's a good question. It's really hard to determine how many unique veterans, meaning how many have we seen once and then don't count them again. It's hard to determine that, but I did go back and take a look at some of our statistics. And over the past 4 months, we've seen a steady increase. And I'd say we've averaged about between 400 to 500 visits per month over the past 4 months.
That's
so
impressive.
If you extrapolate that over the year, I'd say about 5,000 visits into our center since we opened a year ago.
Well, we hope this will help get the word out more for our veterans, as you said, who are homeless or even at risk for becoming homeless.
Absolutely.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for being with us. We're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll hear from a veteran who was formerly homeless and now works at the CRRC. And Tony will still join us, so please stay tuned.
At the VA Maryland healthcare system, we treat every day like it's Veterans Day.
Veterans Day is an opportunity for our country to set aside a few moments to recognize the service and sacrifice of our veterans.
I'm honored to try and serve each veteran as if they're a member of my own family.
You have made a difference, and you are what makes America great.
The VA Maryland healthcare system salutes you and wishes you a happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you for all you've done for us.
Welcome back to Veterans Health Watch. Before the break, we met Mr. Tony Gibson, the coordinator for the Community Resource and Referral Center in Baltimore. And joining Tony is Marvin Page, an Air Force veteran who also works at the Community Center. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Mr. Page, I understand you now work for the Community Resource and Referral Center, but that wasn't always the case, and you actually used the services at the center. You were a formerly homeless veteran. Tell us about that time in your life.
That was a difficult time. I was sick too, and I went to different programs, or I spent time in different places within the VA to get me back on my feet.
And how did you come to the Community Resource and Referral Center?
Somebody told me about it, or I saw Mr. Gibson, and he was telling me about the program.
And you said that that was a hard time for you, and you saw Mr. Gibson. Was it during an outreach?
Yeah, I was at
activity?
McVet's.
Okay.
And I met him at McVet's, and we got to know each other pretty well.
Okay. And now tell us about your experience visiting the center. You said you went through several programs, and now you're working at the center. Tell us about how the center helped you and your experience there.
It helped me mostly by helping other veterans, or finding out their problems, or trying to help to send them to the right place, like send them to the social worker, or tell them about a program that I already visited.
And I'm sure you going through that experience definitely helps a veteran. You can tell them firsthand what to expect and the services to use. How did the services, or what specifically at the center helped you?
Getting
as
housing.
As a veteran.
Getting
okay.
housing was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they also helped me with psychiatrists, and many social workers.
Yeah. And Tony mentioned that it's definitely a team effort, the community resources, and a team effort to help the veterans.
Yes, ma'am.
How could you tell us what you do there at the center?
The big thing is I help veterans, and I make them get the service that I want to get if I was in their shoes, which makes things a lot easier. It makes it pleasant. It's a fun place to work because helping people helps me.
And I know our veterans, I've spoken to so many veterans who enjoy the camaraderie. You meet people, veterans who share experiences, and that helps you to let down your guard and actually receive that care. Have you found that to be your experience with the veterans?
Exactly. That's every day. Mm-hmm. But you never know what the day's going to bring because it's different all the time.
And so what do you like most about working at the center?
I like mostly just helping, showing them which way to go, give them to a social worker. When they leave, I ask them, how did things go? And they always tell me with a big smile, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenya, so Marvin works at our front desk at the reception area. So he's really the face of the CRC. He's that person that when a veteran comes in distress, sometimes angry, sometimes upset, sometimes scared, he's that first contact. And because he's been where that veteran has been, he's really able to get that veteran to be in a space where they can receive the help. So he's the face of the program.
I think that's so important, such a great point to mention, to be in the space where you can actually receive the help. And having someone who's been through this experience, who can share to help you get to that place is wonderful for our veterans. Marvin, is there anything else you would like to tell our viewers about the program, about your experience, or what would help them to get through this time?
I think what I'd like to say is that because of my supervisor and his values and the way he carries things, it makes me do all I can. And I know that that's what he would do, so I would do the same thing.
Great. So Tony, we have some more time. Is there anything else you would like to add about the CRRC and how it helps the veterans? And I'm thinking also about family members. When we think about homelessness, we think about someone who's literally living on the streets. But some people don't have a home of their own. They're living with a friend, a family member. They don't have a place to call their own. What would you like to share with people?
Well, I just would like for people to know that we try to help the entire family if possible. So although we can't provide direct services to family members, we can steer them in the right direction and get them involved in that veterans treatment. So it's kind of a community. It's like that. It takes an entire village to help a veteran heal. It's that mentality, and so that's what we try to get across through the CRRC.
And Marvin, did you want to add anything?
I was thinking about, we also give clothes. We give toiletries. We give clothes, toiletries, shoes.
Those things that people, we take for granted.
Just basic
Some of
needs.
us just take for granted as basic needs. And like I said, for someone who knows a veteran who may be staying with a friend or a family or is out in the street, how can they refer them to your services?
So they can contact the CRC. The number is 410-637-3246. And that would reach actually Mr. Page or the other front desk person, or they can call me directly at 410-637-3215.
Great. Thank you both so much for joining us today, and thank you for what you do for Maryland's veterans. We really appreciate your time.
You're quite welcome.
We're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll learn about what the VA Maryland healthcare system is doing to address homelessness among veterans, the impact it's made, and the challenges still to come. So please join us.
The Appointment Call Center is a fast, easy, convenient way for a veteran to call in to schedule, change, or cancel an appointment.
You can reach any of us by calling 1-800-463-6295, extension 7333.
The call center is open Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. till 5 p.m. If you need help scheduling an appointment, call the call center because we're here to help.
Welcome back to Veterans Health Watch. Today we're focusing on the VA's efforts to address veteran homelessness. And joining us is Chris Buser, the Chief of Social Work Services. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
I know you lead a robust team out there every day trying to help our homeless veterans. And you have some great news to report based on their efforts. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, we've got some fantastic news to share with, the listening audience, and that is that our efforts are truly paying off. And that's not just us saying this, but this is the Housing and Urban Development, HUD, the government agency, saying that every year we do a count or a census of persons who are experiencing homelessness. And from 2015 to 2016, we saw a drop in 141 individuals who now have housing who were homeless the year prior. So we went from about 570 veterans experiencing homelessness in Maryland down to about 420. And that's 141 real live individuals that we made an extremely positive impact in their life. So that's fascinating news for me to come and share.
That is great news to come and share. And we've been working together for a while, especially over the last year with the the mayor's challenge to help end homelessness among veterans, and having Tony Gibson, who was just on about the Community Resource and Referral Center. So it's wonderful to hear that all these efforts are making an impact. How do you calculate those numbers?
Yeah, so every year what we do is there's a census that goes on. It's called the point in time count. And this is always done about the third week of January, which is typically the coldest week of the year for us here in Maryland. And what we do is there's actually a team that will go out and they will canvass the state. And this is not just VA employees, but other volunteers, other government agencies, and other folks who will come together. And like in Baltimore City, I participated, and we break the city up into a grid, and we go out and we start walking the streets and asking anyone that we might find, if they, know of someone who's experiencing homelessness, or are they experiencing homelessness, and we find out who they are, what's going on, what's their story. And at the same time, there's also folks who are going around to the local homeless shelters and the encampments, and they're asking the individuals who are there, about their experience, and also finding out, are they veterans? And this is a self-report that we go on, and usually takes place over 2 nights in January.
Okay, and those numbers have dropped.
They have, yeah. Like I said, we had a drop of 141 individuals, which represents about 25%, and that is pretty consistent what we saw through all the areas that the VA Maryland healthcare system represents, like Baltimore City, up near Perryville, Anne Arundel County, the Eastern Shore of Maryland as well.
And we had Tony Gibson on talking about the Community Resource and Referral Center, just one of the programs you offer through your service. Tell us more about what you do to address veteran homelessness.
Yeah, Tony's program is an absolutely fantastic program. One of the things that I don't know that he mentioned, but I think is worth us pointing out, is that in addition to all the services and the linkage that they do, we're also able to provide meals to veterans who come in to help them, to encourage them so that they don't have to leave during the day to go to a soup kitchen. They can continue receiving the services by getting those meal vouchers from us there at the CRRC. But that's just one program that we offer. We offer outreach into the community, so we are going out to shelters, to encampments. If someone calls us and said they saw a veteran holding a sign, out on the street corner, we'll go out and interview that individual and try and bring them back in. Once we've identified someone, we have an array of services available. We have contract and emergent, shelter beds that we pay for. We also have a grant and per diem program where we can pay for a veteran to be in a residential treatment program for up to 2 years. Now our goal is for that to be probably closer to 90 to 180 days before they get permanent housing, but we have a full 2 years to work depending on what those veterans concerns are. And then lastly, we have our HUD-VASH program, which is a partnership between us and Housing and Urban Development. That's the HUD and HUD-VASH, VASH meaning VA Supportive Housing. And with that, we can actually provide vouchers to veterans. And right now, we have about 1,000 HUD-VASH vouchers that we provide, and that is a lifetime voucher, and it's also a Housing First voucher.
Housing First, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
I know that homelessness is a complicated issue. You mentioned all of the wraparound services you have to support that veteran. But tell us why the Housing First model that the VA follows is so important.
Yeah. Well, for most of our veterans, homelessness didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't the result of just one thing. And getting back to where they want to be, getting their life back, getting back in touch with their family, getting on top of any mental health or substance abuse that might be contributing, and getting the vocational training that they need to return to the workforce is going to take time, and it needs support. And with the Housing First initiative, what we can do is provide that permanent housing to the veteran through the HUD-VASH voucher without having to have gone through everything first. So we're not delaying their housing. By getting that veteran into the permanent housing, they have a secure place to live, they have a case manager who's assigned to them, and we can wrap around all those other services, getting them their health care, their vocational training. If they have issues with substance abuse or mental health, we can bring that in. But that Housing First model allows us to provide them that stable platform by which we wrap everything else around.
And I know we are still really excited about the numbers and the great news that you reported at the beginning of this segment, but I also know your team won't rest until we get veterans off the street.
Yeah. It's exciting for me to come in and talk to you about those real numbers, and and the 141 people that we know are no longer on the streets, but there's still 420 other individuals out there who reported that they are homeless, and that's just a one-time number. The next day that number can change. Someone can find themselves a place to live, and somebody else may find themselves in near homelessness. And so we can't just rest. The race is to get to zero, but it's not just about the number, it's about getting the system in place. We want to be able to identify someone who's at risk of homelessness and cut it off before they get to the point where they have no place to be. We want to get the services in time, so it's being proactive. But when somebody does wind up in that, we need to be able to rapidly identify them and rehouse them. So our efforts are not ending. We're very excited about all that we've done, the partnerships with the mayor, the partnerships with other entities around the area, and the numbers are showing this. But there's still more work to be done.
And speaking of more work to be done, I understand you have expanded your program at the Eastern Shore.
We have. We're very excited to announce that we have got a new partner on the Eastern Shore, a new contract housing provider over there, and that's Diakonia. They're located over in West Ocean City, between Ocean City proper and Salisbury, right there on the Route 50 corridor. So that's allowing us to have more of an impact across our area, because homelessness is not just an inner city problem. I think most folks think of Baltimore or another major city when they think of homelessness, but it exists in all communities. So we need to have a presence throughout the VA Maryland healthcare system area.
And thank you so much, Chris, for sharing all this information and helping to educate our viewing audience on the nature of homelessness and what's needed to help our veterans. And we know that homelessness just doesn't affect our veterans here in Maryland. How can people learn more about what the VA is doing to help homeless veterans, and how can they then refer a veteran to some of the services?
Sure. There's a lot of things that go on across the nation. Of course, here in the state of Maryland, folks can go on to the va.gov website and click on the homeless icon and learn more about the services we provide. But for folks who are at risk of homelessness or experiencing homelessness, the VA has a 24-hour number, so you can call 877-4AID-VET, AIDVET, 4AID-VET, and that can get you to an operator who can do an intake and will get you to the local team, whether it's here in Baltimore, California, Florida, wherever you happen to live.
Okay, and is this number just for veterans?
That number you can link for our veterans.
Okay.
We go by a self-report, so we'll start working with the veteran, and if something comes up in their history where maybe they didn't have a honorable discharge, we can still work with them and get them to proper services.
Great. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations to you and your team for the work you're doing for our veterans, and I know you're going to continue that great work.
Thanks so much. It's great to come and share the great news.
Good. Well, that wraps up this edition of Veterans Health Watch. If you have questions about today's topic or would like to make suggestions for future topics, please give us a call or visit us on our website. And remember, if you are a veteran or you know a veteran who is not using the VA Maryland healthcare system, please call us or visit one of our medical centers. You can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter. We love to serve you. Please join us next time.
Volunteering is an opportunity to show your patriotism.
Most importantly, it's a good feeling knowing that you're helping those who have already served.
And it's always an honor and a privilege to me to be there, because I know that I get to help the men and the women who have served us.
So if you're interested in volunteering with us, best thing is to get in contact with us through our webpage, or you can also call us.
It really, really gives me an opportunity to give back, make a difference.